You called me useless my whole life. Now you're begging to borrow from a broke girl? Elena Vargas sat at the dinner table in East LA, fork in hand, watching her family like she was looking through glass. They had no idea that everything was about to change. They had no idea she was holding all the cards. But let's back up. Because this story doesn't start with revenge. It starts with a lie. The kind of lie that changes everything. Elena was 30 years old, an accountant who worked 60-hour weeks in a cramped office in downtown Los Angeles. She lived in a studio apartment that smelled like old carpet and microwaved meals. Every Sunday, she drove 12 miles to her childhood home for dinner. Not because she wanted to, because she had to. Her mother, Isabella, was the queen of backhanded compliments. Her sister, Sophia, was the golden child who could do no wrong. And her father, Carlos, barely looked at her unless he needed something. This particular Sunday night, Elena walked through the front door carrying a bottle of wine she couldn't afford. The house smelled like garlic and resentment, same as always. Sophia was already there, draped across the couch like a magazine cover, showing off photos of her beach vacation. Isabella was in the kitchen, stirring something that bubbled too loud. Carlos sat in his chair, newspaper in hand, ignoring everyone. Elena sat down at the table. She tried to smile. The dinner started the way it always did, forks scraping plates, small talk that felt like small cuts. Isabella asked about work. Elena mentioned her company had announced pay cuts across the board. She wasn't asking for sympathy, just sharing. Isabella sighed, loud enough to fill the room. You need to learn to be an adult, Elena. No one can save you forever. Sophia laughed, pouring herself more wine. Wait, are you still asking Mom for money? Honey, maybe you should sell that sad little car of yours. Elena took a breath, swallowed the anger rising in her throat. She'd heard worse, she'd survived worse. But here's what they didn't know. 3 weeks ago, Elena had bought a lottery ticket at a gas station on Sunset Boulevard. It was a Tuesday. She was tired. She picked numbers without thinking. The next morning, she checked her phone while sitting in traffic on the 101. $50 million. After taxes, $32 million sitting in a trust fund under a name no one in this house would ever know. She didn't tell a soul. She didn't change a thing. She kept going to work, kept driving her beat-up Honda, kept showing up to these dinners where her family treated her like a burden. Because Elena Vargas was done being the family punching bag, and she had a plan. So that night, sitting at the table with her wine-stained napkin and her mother's disapproving stare, Elena decided to test them. She needed to know exactly where she stood. She needed proof. She set down her fork, looked at her mother. Her voice was soft, almost fragile. Mom, if I really needed help, could you lend me $5,000? Just until I get back on my feet. The room went dead silent. Isabella stopped chewing. Sophia's smile froze on her face. Carlos lowered his newspaper just enough to glance over. Isabella wiped her mouth with a napkin, slow and deliberate. Honey, I don't print money in the backyard. Sophia leaned back in her chair, arms crossed. 5,000? Elena, what did you do? Blow your rent on takeout again? Carlos grunted from his chair. Losers always blame their circumstances. Elena felt something crack inside her chest. Not sadness, not even anger. Clarity. She'd given them a chance. A simple chance to show up, to help, to prove that blood meant something in this house. And they couldn't even pretend. She smiled. Not a fake smile. A real one. That's what I thought, she said. Her voice calm, steady, sharp as a blade. Isabella frowned. Excuse me? Elena stood up, folding her napkin carefully, placing it next to her plate. She looked at each of them, one by one. Her mother, her sister, her father. I said, that's what I thought. I just wanted to see if you'd actually help me, if any of you would. She tilted her head, eyes cold and clear. And now I know. Sophia laughed, nervous now. What's that supposed to mean? Elena grabbed her purse, walked toward the door. She paused, hand on the doorknob, and looked back over her shoulder. It means I'll remember this, Mom. Every word. She left the house that night and didn't look back. Because Elena Vargas wasn't the helpless daughter anymore. She was the woman with $32 million, a photographic memory, and a plan so perfect it would unravel their lives piece by piece, and they had no idea what was coming. Have you ever been put down by the people who were supposed to lift you up? Have you ever been called useless by the ones who should have seen your worth? Stay with me. Because what Elena does next will make them regret every single word they ever said. This is just the beginning. The days after that dinner felt like living underwater. Elena went to work, ate lunch alone at her desk, drove home through LA traffic, smiled when people asked if she was okay. But when the sun went down, Elena Vargas became someone else, someone with $32 million and a burning need for answers. Because here's the thing about being dismissed your whole life. You start to wonder if maybe they know something you don't. Maybe there's a reason they treat you like you're disposable. Maybe there's something beneath the surface you were never supposed to find. So Elena decided to dig. She found a private investigator through a contact at work. His name was Marcus Webb, a former IRS agent who specialized in tracking money trails. The kind of guy who could find a needle in a haystack if that needle owed back taxes. Elena met him at a coffee shop in Silver Lake. She slid an envelope across the table. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a list of names. Her family's names. I need to know everything, she said. Bank accounts, credit cards, loans, anything tied to my name that I didn't sign for. Marcus looked at her over his reading glasses. You think they're using you? I know they are, Elena said. I just need proof. 2 weeks later, Marcus called her at midnight. His voice was tight, careful. You need to come to my office. Now. Elena drove through empty streets, heart pounding in her chest. When she walked into Marcus's office, he had papers spread across his desk like a crime scene. He didn't look at her right away. Sit down, he said. Saturday. Marcus slid the first document toward her. A loan application. $50,000 borrowed 3 years ago for gambling debts. Her signature at the bottom. Except it wasn't her signature. Close but not kite. They forged this, Marcus said. And this. Another document. A mortgage co-sign for a property in Riverside. And this. A credit card in her name, maxed out at $18,000. Elena stared at the papers. Her hands started shaking. Not from fear, from rage. How much total, she asked. $230,000. All in your name. None of it yours. She laughed. A cold, hollow sound. Of course. Marcus hesitated. Slid another document across the desk. This one looked different. Official. Legal. There's something else, he said quietly. I ran a background check on your father. Standard procedure. And I found something in your mother's medical records from 31 years ago. Elena looked up. What? A paternity test. Filed under a sealed court document from a custody dispute that never went public. Marcus met her eyes. Carlos Vargas is not your biological father. The room tilted. Elena grabbed the edge of the desk. Her vision blurred. She forced herself to breathe, to focus, to read the words in front of her. DNA analysis. Paternity excluded. Mother's name, Isabella Vargas. Father's name, unknown. She read it 3 times, 4 times, 5. Then she started laughing. Marcus frowned. Elena, are you okay? She wiped her eyes, nodded. I'm fine. I'm better than fine. She looked at him, and for the first time in years she felt light. Free. Don't you see? I never belonged to them. Not really. This whole time, I thought I was broken because they didn't love me, but they never even saw me as theirs. Marcus watched her carefully. Most people would be devastated. Most people didn't grow up in that house, Elena said. She left his office that night with a folder full of evidence and a plan forming in her mind like a storm cloud. If they wanted to use her name, her credit, her life as a tool, then she'd show them what it felt like to be played. Over the next month, Elena moved like a chess player 3 moves ahead of everyone else. She opened new bank accounts under her trust fund name, transferred money quietly, carefully, in amounts small enough not to trigger alerts. She hired a team of lawyers, the kind who didn't ask questions, just executed orders. She bought up her father's gambling debts from underground loan sharks, paid cash, kept the receipts. Suddenly, Carlos Vargas didn't owe money to dangerous strangers anymore. He owed it to a shell corporation that Elena controlled. She bought a mansion in Malibu, 4 bedrooms, ocean view, $3.2 million, put it in a trust under a fake name, furnished it with art and furniture expensive enough to make a magazine jealous. And then she staged the performance of a lifetime. Elena started telling people at work she'd been let go. Budget cuts, she said, downsizing. She posted on social media about selling her furniture, her TV, her jewelry. Pretended to be desperate. Pretended to be drowning. She even sent a text to her mother. Lost my job. Selling everything. Don't know what I'll do. Isabella's response came 6 hours later. Maybe this will teach you to plan better. Sophia didn't respond at all. Carlos sent one word. Typical. Elena read their messages in her new Malibu living room, sitting on a couch that cost more than their mortgage. She sipped wine that cost $400 a bottle, and she smiled, because they had no idea. No idea she'd found their secrets. No idea she owned their debts. No idea she was 3 steps ahead and closing in fast. The game had just begun, and Elena Vargas was done playing defense. She was about to show them what happens when you underestimate the quiet girl who's been taking notes her whole life. 1 month after her fake job loss, Elena made the call. Her voice cracked just right, shaky, desperate, the kind of broken that makes people believe you've finally hit bottom. Mom, I had an accident. My car got hit, I'm at the hospital. They're saying I need surgery and I don't have insurance anymore. She paused, let the silence hang. I need help, please. Isabella's voice on the other end wasn't worried. It was curious. How bad is it? Bad, Elena whispered. I don't know what to do. There was a long pause. Then Isabella said the words Elena knew she would. We'll come by your apartment. See if there's anything we can do to help. Help. That's what she called it. Elena hung up and smiled. The trap was set. 3 days later, Elena sat in her car half a block from her old apartment building. She had a laptop open on the passenger seat, streaming live footage from 6 hidden cameras she'd installed throughout the apartment. High definition. Audio included. Every angle covered. She sipped her coffee and waited. At 2:15 in the afternoon, Isabella's car pulled up. Sophia got out first, wearing sunglasses like she was trying to hide. Carlos followed, hands in his pockets, looking annoyed to even be there. Isabella had a key. Elena had given her 1 year ago, back when she still thought family meant safety. She watched on the screen as her mother unlocked the door and the 3 of them walked inside. The apartment looked perfect, messy enough to seem real. A few bills scattered on the counter. An eviction notice taped to the fridge, printed on official-looking letterhead that Elena had designed herself. Empty cabinets. A suitcase half-packed in the corner. God, this place is depressing, Sophia said, wrinkling her nose. Isabella moved through the living room like she was shopping, opening drawers, rifling through papers. There has to be something here. Bank statements, a safety deposit box key, anything. Carlos went straight for the bedroom, pulled open the closet, started going through coat pockets. Elena watched from her car, heart steady, fingers wrapped around her coffee cup. She checked her watch. Right on time. In the apartment, Carlos pulled open the top shelf of the closet. A manila envelope fell out, landing at his feet. He picked it up, frowning. Opened it. Inside were photographs, 8 by 10 glossy prints, clear as daylight. Sophia in a hotel room. Sophia kissing a man who wasn't her husband. Sophia in bed with that same man, laughing, her wedding ring on the nightstand. Carlos's face went white. Isabella, you need to see this. Isabella and Sophia rushed into the bedroom. Sophia grabbed the envelope, pulled out the photos, and froze. Her hands started shaking. Where did these come from? Sophia's voice was high, panicked. They were in Elena's closet, Carlos said slowly. Why would Elena have these? But before anyone could answer, Sophia's phone rang. Loud, sharp, cutting through the tension like a knife. She looked at the screen. Her husband's name flashed. She didn't want to answer, but she did. David, I'm busy. I'll call you back. I'm outside, David said. His voice was cold, flat. Elena's apartment. Unlock the door. Now. Sophia's face drained of color. What are you talking about? I said unlock the door. The pounding started. 3 hard knocks that echoed through the apartment. Isabella and Carlos looked at each other. Sophia stood frozen, phone still pressed to her ear. Carlos opened the door. David stood in the hallway, jaw clenched, holding a folder. He didn't say a word, just walked past Carlos into the living room and threw the folder on the coffee table. More photos spilled out. The same ones from the envelope, plus emails, text messages, receipts from hotels. You want to explain this? David's voice shook. Or are you going to lie to my face again? Sophia's mouth opened. Nothing came out. I got these in the mail this morning, David said. Anonymous. But whoever sent them did me a favor, because now I know exactly who I've been married to. Isabella tried to step in, her voice soothing. David, let's all calm down and talk about this like adults. Stay out of this, David snapped. He looked at Sophia. and his eyes were full of something worse than anger. Betrayal. We're done. I'm filing tomorrow, and I'm taking the house. You can figure out where you're going to live. He turned and walked out. The door slammed behind him so hard the walls shook. Sophia collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. Isabella stood in the middle of the room, hands covering her mouth. Carlos just stared at the photos scattered on the table. Then the fighting started. This is your fault, Carlos said, pointing at Isabella. You raised her to think she could do whatever she wanted. My fault? Isabella's voice rose. You're the one who taught her that marriage doesn't mean anything. Don't you dare blame this on me. I'll blame whoever I want. This family is falling apart because nobody takes responsibility for anything. Sophia screamed at both of them to shut up. They screamed back. The apartment filled with accusations, insults, 30 years of buried resentment exploding all at once. Outside, Elena closed her laptop. She leaned back in her seat, took a long sip of coffee, and allowed herself a small, satisfied smile. Don't even have to lift a finger, she murmured. They'll destroy each other all on their own. That night, Elena made 2 more moves. First, she sent another anonymous package. This one went to David's lawyer with additional evidence of Sophia's affair, including financial records showing she'd used joint account money to pay for hotels. Second, she contacted the bank holding Carlos's largest gambling debt, $140,000 owed to a lender who was ready to foreclose. Elena offered to buy the debt outright, cash. New questions. The bank said yes, which meant Carlos Vargas no longer owed money to a bank. He owed it to a private creditor. A creditor who could call in that debt any time she wanted. A creditor who had the power to make him do whatever she asked. A creditor named Elena Vargas. Checkmate. The dominoes started falling faster than anyone expected. Within 2 weeks, Sophia's divorce was finalized. David's lawyer had been ruthless. She lost the house, half her savings, and custody was split down the middle. She moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Van Nuys, the kind with thin walls and a view of a parking lot. Carlos's construction company got hit next. An anonymous tip to the state labor board triggered an investigation. Payroll fraud, tax evasion, unpaid wages going back 5 years. The story made the local news. His clients started canceling contracts. His reputation, built over 30 years, crumbled in 30 days. And Isabella, who'd spent decades playing the role of the successful matriarch, the woman who raised 2 daughters and held a family together, suddenly found herself exposed. A lifestyle blogger in Pasadena published a deep dive into the Vargas family finances, gambling debts, loan defaults, foreclosure notices. The comments section lit up like wildfire. People love watching the mighty fall. But the real blow came on a Tuesday morning. Isabella was sitting at her kitchen table, staring at bills she couldn't pay, when the mail arrived. A single envelope. No return address. Expensive paper. The kind that feels heavy in your hand. She opened it. Inside was a cashier's check for $500,000, made out to a trust fund, and a handwritten note on cream-colored stationery. For Sophia's education, not for you, Elena. Sophia was Sophia's 8-year-old daughter, Elena's niece. Isabella read the note 3 times. Her hands started shaking. Tears filled her eyes, spilled over, ran down her cheeks. She pressed the check to her chest and sobbed. Not because of the money, because she finally understood. Elena had won, completely, utterly, and there was nothing Isabella could do about it. But Elena wasn't finished. 3 days later, a video appeared online, posted to YouTube, shared on Twitter, reposted on Instagram and TikTok. Within 6 hours, it had 2 million views. The video was simple. Elena sat in a chair against a white background, hair pulled back, minimal makeup. She wore a navy blue blazer and spoke directly to the camera. No script, no edits. Just her voice, clear and steady. My name is Elena Vargas, and I want to talk about something we don't discuss enough. Economic abuse. She paused. Let the words settle. Economic abuse is when someone controls your money to control your life, when they take out loans in your name, when they mock you for being broke while they steal from you, when they convince you that you're worthless because you don't have money. Then make sure you never will. Her voice didn't waver, didn't break. It was calm, powerful. For years, I believed I was the problem, that I wasn't good enough, smart enough, valuable enough. My family told me I was useless, and I believed them. She leaned forward slightly. Until I realized they needed me to believe that, because as long as I felt small, they could use me. The camera stayed on her face. Every word landed like a hammer. I'm not going to name names, but I will say this. If someone in your family treats you like an ATM, like a scapegoat, like a tool they can exploit and discard, you don't owe them loyalty. You owe yourself freedom. The video ended with a black screen and white text. You are not alone. By the next morning, the video had 12 million views. The comments section was flooded. Thousands of people sharing their own stories, tagging friends, tagging family members. Some comments were supportive, others were brutal. And some people recognized the story, recognized the details, put two and two together. Within 48 hours, investigative bloggers had connected the dots. The Vargas family, the fraud investigation, the divorce, the public records. Suddenly, Isabella, Carlos, and Sofia weren't just people with problems. They were the villains in a viral story. The press showed up at their doors. Isabella stopped answering her phone. Sofia deleted all her social media. Carlos hired a lawyer and refused to comment. But the damage was done. Public opinion had turned, and it wasn't turning back. 2 weeks later, Elena held a press conference at a hotel in downtown Los Angeles. She wore a white suit, hair down, confident, composed. The woman who walked into that room looked nothing like the tired accountant who used to sit at her family's dinner table and take their insults in silence. She stood behind a podium and addressed a room full of reporters, cameras, and flashing lights. Today, I'm announcing the creation of the Vargas Foundation, a nonprofit organization dedicated to helping women escape financial abuse and build independent lives. Her voice was strong, clear. We'll provide legal aid, financial literacy courses, emergency housing, and job training, because no one should have to stay in a toxic situation because they can't afford to leave. The room erupted with questions, reporters shouting over each other, cameras clicking, microphones thrust forward. One voice broke through, a woman from the LA Times. Elena, do you regret what you did, exposing your family like this? Elena smiled. Not a cruel smile, not a bitter one, just honest. No, she said. I only regret not doing it sooner. The room fell silent. Elena stepped away from the podium, walked out of the hotel with her head high. Outside, the California sun was shining. Traffic hummed on the streets. People moved through their lives, unaware that one woman had just rewritten the ending of hers. Elena Vargas had won, not by becoming like them, but by becoming everything they said she'd never be, free. 1 year later, Elena Vargas woke up to the sound of waves crashing against the Malibu shore. She opened her eyes in a bedroom flooded with morning light, floor-to-ceiling windows, ocean view, white linen sheets that cost more than her old monthly rent. This was home now, not the cramped studio in downtown LA, not the suffocating house in East LA where she'd spent 30 years shrinking herself to fit. This, freedom, space, peace. She walked barefoot into the kitchen, where her friend Maya was already making coffee. Maya had been her college roommate, the one who'd stuck around when everyone else disappeared. Now she lived in the guest house, managing operations for the Vargas Foundation. Morning, Maya said, sliding a cup across the counter. We've got 15 new applications for the housing program. And the LA Times wants to do a feature on the women who graduated from our financial literacy course. Elena smiled. Schedule it. This was her life now. Not fighting, not surviving, building, creating, helping other women find the exits she'd had to claw her way toward. The Vargas Foundation had grown faster than she'd imagined. In 12 months, they'd helped 237 women leave abusive situations, provided legal aid, job training, emergency funds, a network of support that caught people before they hit the ground. Elena's living room was filled with photos, not of family, of the women she'd helped, their faces smiling, free, alive. That evening, Elena sat on her deck with 3 friends. Marcus, the private investigator who'd uncovered her family's secrets, now worked as the foundation's director of research. Jen, a lawyer who'd left corporate law to run their legal aid program. And David, Sofia's ex-husband, who'd become an unexpected ally and donated generously to the cause. They weren't related by blood, but they were family in every way that mattered. They ate dinner as the sun set over the Pacific, laughed, shared stories, made plans for the foundation's expansion. This was what home felt like. Not obligation, not guilt. Just people who chose each other. The doorbell rang just after 9. Elena frowned. She wasn't expecting anyone. She walked to the front door, opened it, and froze. Isabella stood on the porch, holding a bouquet of lavender. Her mother looked older, smaller somehow. The confidence that used to fill every room had drained away, leaving behind someone fragile and uncertain. Her hands shook as she held out the flowers. "Elena," Isabella said. Her voice cracked. "I need to talk to you." Elena didn't take the flowers, didn't move, just looked at the woman who'd spent 3 decades making her feel worthless. "Can I come in?" Isabella asked. Elena stepped aside, let her in, but didn't offer her a seat, just stood in the entryway, arms crossed, waiting. Isabella set the flowers on the console table, took a breath. Her eyes were red, like she'd been crying for days. "I'm sorry," Isabella said. The words came out broken, raw. "I'm so sorry, Elena, for everything, for the way I treated you, for letting them treat you, for teaching you to suffer instead of teaching you to love." Elena said nothing, just listened. "I didn't see it," Isabella continued. "Or maybe I did and I ignored it. Carlos, Sophia, the way we used you, belittled you, made you feel small so we could feel big." She wiped her eyes. "You deserved better. You deserved a mother who protected you, who saw you, who loved you the way you needed to be loved." Tears streamed down Isabella's face. She looked at Elena with something close to desperation. "I know I can't fix it. I know it's too late. But I had to tell you. I had to say I'm sorry." Elena stood silent for a long moment. The ocean crashed outside. The house creaked softly. Maya and the others stayed in the living room, giving her space. Finally, Elena spoke. Her voice was calm, steady. No anger, no bitterness, just truth. "I forgive you," she said. Isabella's face broke with relief. "But I don't forget," Elena continued. "Forgiveness is for you, Mom, not for me. It's so you can move forward, so you can let go of the guilt." She stepped closer. "But it doesn't mean I'm letting you back in. It doesn't mean we're family again. It just means I'm not carrying your weight anymore." Isabella nodded, tears falling faster now. "I understand." "I hope you do," Elena said gently, "because I spent 30 years waiting for you to see me, and now I don't need you to anymore." Isabella picked up her purse, walked toward the door, paused. "You became everything I should have been," she whispered. Then she left. Elena closed the door behind her, stood there for a moment, breathing. Then she walked through her house, past her chosen family who looked at her with quiet support, and out onto the deck. The ocean stretched before her, endless, powerful, constant. The waves rolled in and pulled back, over and over, reshaping the shore one tide at a time. Strength wasn't about destroying the people who hurt you. It was about rising anyway, building anyway, living anyway. Elena walked back inside to her office. On the wall, in simple black letters, hung a quote she'd written herself, the words she lived by now. "Freedom is not revenge. It's the life you build after." She sat at her desk, opened her laptop, read through applications from women who needed help, women who were where she used to be, trapped, afraid, convinced they had no way out. She approved 6 emergency grants, scheduled 3 intake calls, replied to an email from a journalist who wanted to share the foundation's story. Outside, her friends laughed. Music played softly. The ocean kept rolling. Elena smiled. Not the fake smile she used to wear at family dinners. Not the bitter smile of revenge. A real smile. Light. Free. Peaceful. No more pain. No more hate. No more chains. Just freedom. And freedom, she'd learned, was the sweetest victory of all. If you've ever felt trapped by people who should have lifted you up, remember this. Your story doesn't end where they said it would. You get to write the ending. You get to choose who deserves a place in your life. And you get to build something beautiful from the ashes they left behind. Freedom isn't about revenge. It's about the life you create when you finally walk away. What will you build with yours?